The sun was setting over the rocky plains of Erythea, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. Captain Auric adjusted the straps of his armor as he led the convoy through the winding canyons. His eyes scanned the horizon constantly. Though the planet seemed quiet, Auric knew danger could strike at any moment. Beside him, Princess Ilara sat in the armored hover carriage, her hands gripping the rail nervously. She was young, barely 19, but carried herself with the calm dignity of someone who had faced the weight of responsibility her whole life. Yet even she could not hide the tension in her eyes. "Captain," she said softly, "do you really think they'll come for us again?" Auric's jaw tightened. "If they do, we'll be ready. They may have numbers, but we have something they don't. Humans don't give up." Ilara smiled faintly. Humans. That was why Auric was here. Sent from a distant planet, humans were often underestimated by alien forces. But time and again, they had proven that their courage and quick thinking could turn the tide of battles where others would fail. Auric had already earned a reputation across the stars for his bravery, and now, here on Erythea, he would have to prove it again. The convoy crested a hill, and the world below opened up into a valley. The sight made Auric pause. Smoke curled up from the distant fields, and the occasional flare of light suggested the enemy was near. "Looks like they've found us sooner than expected," Auric muttered. He touched a communicator. "All units, stay alert. Form defensive positions and be ready to move at my command." The hover carriages slowed, forming a protective formation around the princess. Soldiers readied energy rifles and shields, their faces set with determination. Auric dismounted, letting the wind sweep across his face. There was a calm before the storm, the kind of calm that always preceded a fight. Then the attack began. From the jagged rocks above, alien ships dropped silently, their engines glowing with a faint green light. A barrage of energy bolts erupted toward the convoy, shattering the air with sparks and fire. Soldiers returned fire, but the aliens were faster, their ships weaving in patterns that made hitting them difficult. "Auric," a soldier shouted. "They're moving in closer." Auric sprinted toward the princess's carriage, scanning for a safe position. One of the smaller alien drones had broken through the outer defense and was heading straight for Ilara. Without hesitation, Auric leaped onto the carriage, blocking the drone's path with his shield. The energy bolt hit the shield with a deafening crack, forcing him to stagger. "Captain, move," Ilara cried. "I won't leave you," Auric shouted back. He gritted his teeth, pushing the drone away. It skidded across the ground, sparking before finally collapsing. But he didn't have time to breathe. More drones descended, their glowing eyes fixed on the princess. Auric moved like a force of nature. He dodged, rolled, and countered with precision strikes. Each move was calculated, showing the skill and bravery humans were known for. Soldiers nearby found new courage, inspired by his fearlessness. Even in the face of overwhelming odds, they held their ground. "Form a circle around me," Auric yelled. "Protect her at all costs." The convoy soldiers responded instantly. They created a protective ring, forming barriers and firing at any alien that got too close. Despite the chaos, Auric's voice carried calm authority. His presence made the impossible seem possible. Suddenly, a massive ship hovered above, larger and more menacing than any drone. Its underbelly opened, releasing a wave of smaller fighters that swarmed the convoy. Energy bolts tore through the sky, igniting the dry grass and rocks. Auric's eyes narrowed. He knew this was the moment he had been preparing for. There was no retreat. He grabbed a nearby plasma launcher and fired at the lead ship. The bolt hit with a resounding explosion, sending debris flying. The aliens faltered, their formation broken. But Auric's victory came at a cost. A bolt of green energy struck him squarely in the chest, throwing him backward. Pain seared through his body, and he fell to the ground. The world blurred, and for a moment he feared he would never rise again. "Captain," Ilara's voice screamed through the chaos. She leaped from the carriage, ignoring her own safety. "Stay with me!" Auric struggled to his knees. He couldn't leave her. Not now, not ever. With every ounce of strength he stood, even as his armor smoked and his limbs ached. The humans around him rallied, seeing their leader still fighting. Together they pushed back the aliens. One by one the drones fell, unable to overcome the combined courage and strategy of the humans. The massive ship finally retreated, its energy shields flickering. A cheer rose among the convoy soldiers, but Auric barely heard it. He collapsed beside Ilara, panting and wounded. Her hands were on his shoulders, steadying him. You saved me, she whispered, her eyes shining with gratitude. I promised, Arik replied, his voice hoarse but resolute. And I always keep my promises. For a moment there was silence, broken only by the distant hum of retreating ships. Then Arik looked around. The valley was a battlefield, scarred and smoking, yet the humans had survived. They had stood against impossible odds and lived. Alara helped him to his feet. You've done more than protect me, Captain, she said. You've shown them all what humans are capable of. You've given them hope. Arik shook his head slightly. No, Princess. Humans don't hope for victory. We fight for it. That's the difference. As night fell over the valley, Arik and Alara surveyed the damage. The convoy was battered but functional. Soldiers were tending to the wounded, their faces reflecting exhaustion and pride. Captain, Alara said softly, the Queen will want to hear of your bravery. She may not believe it, though. Humans are different, Arik nodded. He knew she was right. To the alien civilizations they had fought, humans were unpredictable, reckless, and bold in ways no machine or tactic could fully understand. That unpredictability was their strength, their edge against forces that relied on strategy and sheer power. Let them come, he said quietly. If they think they can beat us, they'll learn the hard way. Humans don't back down. Alara's gaze lingered on him. She had seen leaders before, but none like Arik. Brave, selfless, and unyielding. Even now she sensed that their survival was not just because of tactics or weapons, but because of the human spirit standing beside her. As they prepared to move the convoy to a safer location, Arik noticed movement on the horizon. A sleek, massive ship glided silently across the night sky. Its design was unlike any human technology, organic, elegant, yet intimidating. A chill ran down his spine. The alien queen, he muttered, recognizing the signature of her fleet. She's here, Alara's eyes widened. What does she want? Arik did not answer immediately. He had fought battles, faced ambushes, and stared down enemies countless times. But the thought of an alien queen personally arriving was different. It was not fear, it never was, but a test, a challenge he knew he could not ignore. The ship landed in the valley, shimmering as the hull opened like a blossom. From within, tall, graceful figures emerged, led by one who radiated authority and power. The air seemed to hum around her. This was no ordinary alien leader. The queen herself had come, and her gaze fell directly on Arik. For a long moment, neither moved. Then the queen spoke, her voice melodic yet firm. You saved her life. Arik straightened, meeting her eyes. I did what any soldier would do. Her lips curved into a subtle smile. Not any soldier. You fought with courage no other has shown. You are remarkable. Arik felt the weight of her gaze, as if she could see every thought and intention. He did not falter. I protect those who cannot protect themselves. That is my duty. The queen nodded slowly, stepping closer. Then you must come with me. Arik's brow furrowed. I can't. My place is with my people, with the princess. You will not take me from them. The queen's smile deepened. You do not understand. I do not ask. I command. But perhaps, after seeing your courage, I will find reason to let you return. Arik's heart raced. He had faced countless enemies, but the queen's presence was unlike any threat he had ever known. She was not merely testing his strength, she was testing his spirit, his loyalty, his very humanity. He glanced at Alara, whose hands were steady on his arm. He nodded to her. Stay safe, he whispered. I will, she replied, her voice firm. As the night deepened, Arik knew one thing clearly. This was only the beginning. The human spirit had carried him this far, and it would carry him further, even into the heart of an alien empire. And he was ready. The valley had grown quiet. Smoke still curled from the scorched earth, and the stars began to twinkle above the rocky plains of Erythia. Captain Arik stood beside Princess Alara, his armor dented and scorched, but his resolve unbroken. He had faced overwhelming odds and emerged victorious, yet now a new challenge approached, one unlike any he had faced before. From the shadows of the night, a ship descended silently. Its hull shimmered like liquid crystal, reflecting the starlight in hundreds of colors. The aliens who emerged were tall, with elegant forms and glimmering skin that seemed almost transparent under the moonlight. At their head walked the alien queen. Her presence was commanding, yet there was an unmistakable fascination in her gaze as she studied Arik. You are remarkable, the Queen said, her voice musical and firm. No human has fought like this before. You are different. Arik straightened, keeping his hand near his sidearm but showing no fear. I did what I had to do. The princess's life was in danger. That is my duty. The Queen studied him for a long moment, her glowing eyes seeming to see through him. Then she nodded slowly. I wish to understand your kind. Humans are unpredictable yet capable of great courage. I want to know how one like you came to be. I am just a soldier, Arik replied. We humans fight to survive and to protect others. That is all. The Queen tilted her head, a smile playing across her lips. You underestimate yourself. You are extraordinary, and that is why you will come with me. Arik's jaw tightened. I cannot. I must return to my people and the princess. That is my responsibility. The Queen stepped closer. Her movements were graceful, almost floating, yet she radiated power. I do not ask. I command. You will come with me. Arik hesitated, looking at the princess. Ilara's expression was calm, but her eyes betrayed concern. He knew the Queen's power could not be underestimated. Still, he could not abandon his duty, or appear weak in front of the aliens. I will go, he said finally. But I do so as a protector, not as a prisoner. I will not serve as a subject of fear or obedience. I am human. The Queen's smile widened slightly. Good. That is the spirit I wish to observe. The journey to the alien palace was unlike anything Arik had ever experienced. The ship moved without sound, gliding through the night sky as if it were part of the stars themselves. The interior shimmered with colors that shifted and flowed, walls that seemed alive, and technology that appeared more like art than machinery. Arik could not help but study everything. Humans had advanced technology, yes, but the aliens' devices operated on principles he had never imagined. Yet even in this strange environment, he noticed patterns, weaknesses, and ways to understand their logic. Humans had a talent for seeing connections that others overlooked, a trait that had saved him countless times. Princess Ilara was escorted separately, safe under the watch of other aliens, yet she often glanced at him through the observation window. Her eyes conveyed trust and belief in him, giving Arik the strength to remain calm. Finally, the ship descended onto a platform in the heart of the alien palace. The palace itself was a breathtaking structure, towers of shimmering crystal that seemed to reach the sky, bridges that twisted and floated, and gardens with plants that glowed with an inner light. The air hummed with energy, yet it felt strangely alive, almost welcoming. Arik followed the Queen into the central chamber. Here alien leaders and scholars gathered, their eyes wide with curiosity as they observed him. He realized immediately that he was the center of attention, the anomaly that had captured their interest. The Queen gestured to a seat at the center. You will rest here, she said. Your injuries must heal, and then we will learn from each other. Arik sat, careful not to appear submissive yet showing respect. The aliens studied him silently, their curiosity intense but non-threatening. He realized that unlike in battle, here his mind and spirit would be tested more than his physical strength. One of the alien scholars stepped forward, her skin glimmering softly. Human, she said, your courage is unlike anything we have seen. You protect others at great personal risk. Why do you do this? Arik looked at her directly. Because it is the right thing to do. Strength is not just about power. It is about knowing when to fight, when to help, and when to sacrifice for others. The Queen's eyes seemed to sparkle. Your kind values honor and loyalty. Fascinating. You are human, yet you possess qualities that many of our species admire, but rarely achieve. Arik remained calm, studying her. I don't do it for admiration. I do it because someone has to. That is what humans call duty. A murmur ran through the assembly. The aliens were clearly impressed by the simplicity and clarity of his words. It was not just his actions that fascinated them, but the philosophy behind them, a philosophy built on courage, compassion, and intelligence. Over the next days, Arik was treated with respect but also closely observed. The Queen allowed him freedom within the palace grounds, but guards remained near, ready to intervene if needed. He explored the alien gardens, learning about their strange flora and technology, all the while noting patterns and thinking strategically. Even in captivity, he remained aware of his surroundings and considered possible ways to return to his people if necessary. Yet he was not alone in this new world. The Queen often visited not to intimidate but to converse. They spoke of human history, of bravery and strategy, of the choices that defined a person. Arik realized that while she commanded armies, she lacked the raw unpredictability humans carried, the ability to improvise and adapt under pressure. "You think humans are fragile?" she said one evening, her voice soft yet commanding. "But you prove otherwise. How is it that one human can face so many and yet remain alive?" Arik smiled faintly. "We survive because we refuse to quit. We see possibilities where others see walls. We trust in our strength and in each other. That is what makes us dangerous." The Queen nodded slowly. "Dangerous and admirable. I wish to understand this fully. Perhaps you can teach me." Arik shook his head. "I can teach actions, but the spirit, that comes from experience, from choice. Humans choose to fight for others even when it is not easy. That cannot be copied, only lived." Her eyes softened. "Then I will observe. Perhaps I can learn more than I expect." One night Arik sat alone in the palace courtyard. The twin moons of Erythia shone brightly, casting silvery light over the shimmering gardens. The alien palace was silent, yet it felt alive with quiet energy. He thought of his home, of the princess, of his people waiting for his return. He realized that no matter how fascinating this world, no matter how advanced its technology, his heart belonged with humans. Courage, loyalty, and honor were not just ideas. They were part of him. And he would not lose them, no matter what the Queen demanded. A soft voice broke his thoughts. "You are thinking of leaving, aren't you?" Arik turned to see the Queen, her presence calm and almost gentle under the moonlight. "I am thinking of my duty," he replied. "And my duty is to my people." She stepped closer. "Yet here you are, alive, respected, and admired. You have power in this world more than any human could imagine. Why would you choose to leave it?" Arik looked at her steadily. "Because power is meaningless without responsibility. I may have the chance to stay, but that is not my path. My path is with those I protect, with those I care for. That is what makes humans human." The Queen regarded him silently. For the first time, Arik saw a flicker of understanding in her eyes, a recognition that his strength was not just in skill, but in spirit. "You are extraordinary," she whispered. "I wish to know if others like you exist among your kind." "I hope they do," Arik said. "But even if they don't, the human spirit is strong. It adapts, survives, and inspires. That is why we endure." The Queen nodded, her expression unreadable yet thoughtful. "Very well, human. You will remain under my observation. But know this, your courage, your loyalty, your choices, they have changed how I see your kind, and that is only the beginning." Arik felt a mixture of relief and determination. He was not free, not yet. But he had made his position clear. He would not compromise his values, and he would not betray his people. Even here, in a world of strange wonders and alien power, the human spirit remained unbroken, and the alien Queen, for all her majesty and authority, had learned that one human could challenge even her expectations. The alien palace was unlike anything Captain Arik had ever seen. Towers of crystal spiraled into the sky, reflecting light from the twin moons of Erythia. Bridges of shimmering energy connected the towers, and gardens glowed with plants that seemed alive, their colors shifting as if breathing. The air hummed softly with a strange energy, making him feel alert yet oddly calm. Arik had been in the palace for several days now. The Queen allowed him freedom within certain areas, and guards kept a respectful distance. Still, he was not free. Every step he took, every interaction was observed. The alien leaders were fascinated by him, studying how he thought, moved, and spoke. It was not a prison in the traditional sense, more like an arena of observation, where his mind and spirit were tested as much as his body had been in battle. He walked through one of the palace gardens, his boots crunching softly on crystal-like stones. Alien flowers emitted a soft, pulsing light, and streams of luminescent water flowed around him. Yet Arik's eyes were alert. The palace might be beautiful, but it was full of unknown dangers. And even if the Queen had not threatened him, he knew he could not lower his guard. A soft voice called from behind him. "You move cautiously, human, as if you expect danger at every corner." Arik turned to see the Queen approaching. Her movements were smooth, graceful, yet carried the weight of authority. "I do not fear the beauty of this place," he replied. "I respect it, but I cannot ignore the unknown. She nodded, her eyes thoughtful. A wise approach. Your kind values caution, yet acts decisively when required. Fascinating. Arik studied her, noticing subtle expressions in her glowing eyes. The queen was powerful, yes, but not omniscient. She relied on her subjects to execute her plans. Humans, however, relied on their judgment and adaptability. That difference had saved countless lives, including Princess Alara's. You have been here several days, she said. What do you think of my palace? It is extraordinary, Arik said. Your people have built wonders beyond imagination. But a palace does not make a leader. The way you guide your people and the way you observe them, that shows true power. The queen paused, as if considering his words. You speak boldly for one who is constrained. I speak honestly, Arik said. It is the only way humans survive. Honesty and courage, even when it is difficult. Create trust and respect. That is what guides us, not fear alone. Her eyes softened for a moment. Perhaps that is why you are here. Not just as an anomaly, but as a lesson. Arik nodded, his mind working quickly. Lessons could be shared. Observations could be made. But he would not compromise his integrity. Humans had strength beyond technology or power. That strength was in their choices, in their courage, and in their loyalty. Over the following days, Arik began to interact with other alien leaders. They were tall and elegant, with skin that shimmered like liquid metal. Some were wary, others curious, but all respected his presence. He listened carefully, learned their customs, and adapted without losing his own values. Humans had always thrived by understanding others without giving up who they were. One morning, Arik was invited to the council hall. Here, alien leaders discussed plans for trade, diplomacy, and defense. When he entered, whispers ran through the room. The humans' reputation as brave and intelligent warriors had reached far, and now he stood before an audience of those who commanded fleets, armies, and knowledge. You are far from your world, one elder said, his voice like a soft chime. Yet you stand tall among us. How do you manage such courage? Arik looked around the room calmly. Courage is not the absence of fear, he replied. It is the choice to act despite fear. Every living being faces danger. What matters is what you do in that moment. The room fell silent. The aliens had studied humans from afar, but few had ever experienced this direct, simple wisdom. Arik's words carried authority not because of his species, but because they were true. Another alien leader, a scholar with translucent skin that shimmered blue, leaned forward. You also fight to protect others. That is unusual. Most beings fight for power, not for others' lives. That is what makes humans human, Arik said. We protect those who cannot protect themselves. That is our strength and our responsibility. Power alone is meaningless without loyalty and duty. The scholars nodded thoughtfully. Arik realized that even in a world full of advanced intelligence, his simple human perspective was valuable. Humans were unpredictable, adaptable, and capable of inspiring trust, qualities that even the queen admired. Days turned into a week. Arik's interactions with the queen grew more frequent. They spoke about strategy, leadership, and the nature of courage. She would present problems and he would propose solutions that often surprised her. Humans relied not just on strength or technology, but on ingenuity and imagination. You think differently? She said one evening as they walked through the palace gardens. Most of my people plan carefully, but you see solutions in ways they cannot. It is remarkable, Arik shrugged. Humans adapt. We find ways to solve problems because we have no choice. In battle or life, survival depends on creativity, teamwork, and trust. That is what makes us strong, the queen smiled faintly. And yet you still insist on returning to your people, even when you could stay here and wield great influence. I cannot, Arik said simply. Power is meaningless if it comes at the cost of my principles, my duty, or my loyalty. Humans may be small in number compared to some empires, but we endure because we make the right choices. Her eyes glimmered in the moonlight. I see now. It is not just your actions, but your spirit that matters. Perhaps this is the lesson I needed. Arik looked at her steadily. The lesson is simple. Courage, loyalty, and integrity are more powerful than fear or force. That is why humans survive even when the odds are impossible. One day, Arik was called to observe a training session of the alien soldiers. He noticed immediately that they relied heavily on technology and strict routines. He suggested minor adjustments, using cover differently, coordinating attacks in ways that allowed flexibility, and trusting instinct over rigid strategy. The alien leaders were skeptical at first, but when the results became clear, faster response times, fewer injuries, and higher success rates, they began to realize that human adaptability was not just useful in battle, but revolutionary. Arik smiled quietly to himself. Even in captivity, he could influence others, teach, and inspire. That was the essence of humanity, the ability to adapt, survive, and inspire even in the most challenging circumstances. The Queen observed silently, her gaze thoughtful. "You influence more than you realize," she said later. "Your presence changes the way my people see themselves and each other." "That is a power few possess," Arik met her gaze. "It is not power. It is responsibility. Every action we take affects others. That is why humans fight not for glory but for each other." The Queen nodded slowly. She understood now that humans could not be judged by strength or technology alone. Their courage, loyalty, and adaptability created impact far beyond what machines or armies could achieve. As the days passed, Arik found a rhythm in the palace. He trained with alien soldiers, exchanged knowledge with scholars, and explored the wonders of the palace gardens. Yet his thoughts always returned to home, his people, the princess, and the life he had left behind. He knew he could not stay permanently, no matter how fascinating or rewarding this alien world was. One evening, he stood on a balcony overlooking the glowing gardens. The twin moons reflected on the shimmering water, and the air was calm. The Queen appeared beside him. "You are restless," she said softly. "I am human," he replied. "We value freedom, family, and duty. I may respect this world, but my heart belongs elsewhere." She looked at him for a long moment. "And yet, even in your restraint, you influence us all. Perhaps humans are not only brave, but necessary for change," Arik nodded. "We survive not just because of strength, but because we choose to act rightly. That is why we endure, why we inspire, and why we protect." The Queen smiled faintly. "Then I will observe you further. Perhaps there is more I can learn from humans than I ever imagined." Arik straightened, feeling a sense of calm resolve. He was not free, yet he was not powerless. His spirit, his choices, and his courage had already left an impression on an entire civilization. And no matter what came next, he would remain human, undaunted, loyal, and courageous. As night deepened, Arik realized that life in the alien palace, strange and wondrous as it was, had also taught him something. Influence came not from fear or power, but from integrity, courage, and the willingness to act for what was right. And that was a lesson no alien, no matter how powerful, could ever take away. The alien palace, though magnificent, was no longer calm. Rumors had spread among the corridors of crystal towers and glowing gardens. A faction within the empire, jealous of the Queen's power, was plotting against her. Whispers of rebellion reached even the farthest wings of the palace, carried by nervous servants and concerned council members. Captain Arik had noticed subtle signs over the past days: missing patrols, hurried conversations that stopped when he approached, and fleeting glances from some of the alien leaders that betrayed tension. The Queen, while aware of the unrest, seemed confident in her authority. Yet Arik, trained by human experience and battlefield intuition, sensed the danger before it erupted. He paced the balcony overlooking the glowing gardens. The twin moons cast silver light on the shimmering pools below, and the air was calm, almost peaceful. But Arik knew better. Where there is peace, danger often waits silently, a soft voice called behind him. "Captain, your insight has been valuable," the Queen said, her voice smooth and calm, though her glowing eyes betrayed concern. "Do you sense something is wrong?" Arik nodded. "There are forces here who do not wish to see your rule continue. They are cautious but organized. If we do not act, they will strike when you least expect it." The Queen's gaze sharpened. "I have noticed signs, but I did not think them serious. Can you assist me in protecting the palace?" "I will," Arik said firmly. "But it will not be enough to defend. We must anticipate their moves and counteract them before they act." That evening, Arik convened with the Queen and her trusted generals. He outlined what he had observed: small units moving in secret, suspicious communications, and potential weak points in the palace's defenses. Unlike the aliens, who relied on advanced technology and rigid plans, Arik suggested strategies based on flexibility, unpredictability, and adaptation. "You want us to act differently than we usually do," one elder said cautiously. "Your methods are unusual." Arik met his gaze steadily. Yes, but predictable defenses are easy to overcome. You need to be ready for anything. Humans survive because we adapt to the unexpected. That is your strength too. You just need to use it differently. The Queen nodded slowly. Then we will trust your guidance, human. Prepare your plan. Over the next days, Arik worked closely with the palace forces. He trained soldiers in tactics that combined their advanced technology with human adaptability. They practiced improvisation, using terrain creatively, and coordinating strikes in ways the enemy would not expect. The alien soldiers, initially skeptical, began to see the results almost immediately. Their response time improved and their confidence grew. Arik also formed small teams of elite soldiers, mixing human guidance with alien skill. These teams patrolled the palace's perimeter, monitored communications, and prepared for any sign of rebellion. Every night, Arik studied the palace's layout, searching for vulnerabilities and potential escape routes should the worst occur. The Queen observed silently, sometimes speaking softly to Arik in private. "Your strategies are effective," she said one night, her eyes reflecting the glowing gardens. "I see now that humans think differently, not just with strength, but with imagination and foresight." "It is remarkable," Arik nodded. "We survive because we cannot rely on just one way of thinking. Flexibility, observation, and courage, those are what humans trust. And it works even against stronger enemies." The rebellion finally revealed itself on a cold, quiet morning. Small groups of alien soldiers, previously loyal, turned against their commanders, attempting to seize control of key areas within the palace. Energy shields flared and alarms echoed through the crystal halls. Arik acted quickly. He directed loyal soldiers to secure the most critical areas and used his teams to intercept the rebels. His strategies were unconventional. He anticipated their moves, lured them into controlled zones, and minimized casualties while gaining control. The rebels, expecting rigid tactics, were surprised by his adaptability and coordination. In the heart of the palace, the Queen's main council chamber became the focal point of the battle. Rebels attempted to breach the inner doors, but Arik had already positioned forces strategically. Using a combination of alien energy shields and human improvisation, they funneled the attackers into narrow corridors where they could be neutralized efficiently. Amid the chaos, Arik moved like a storm. His presence inspired the loyal soldiers. They followed his commands without hesitation, trusting his judgment even in a foreign world. He dodged energy blasts, directed reinforcements, and neutralized threats with precise action. Each decision was calculated yet adaptable, showing the unpredictable creativity humans were known for. The Queen observed from above, calm yet vigilant. She had seen many battles, yet Arik's approach was unlike any she had encountered. He did not rely solely on power or numbers. He relied on intelligence, observation, and instinct, the qualities that made humans formidable. "Your kind is extraordinary," she whispered to herself. "One human can turn the tide of war." By midday, the palace was secure. The rebels were captured or had fled, and the Queen's authority was solidified. Yet Arik did not rest. He coordinated the aftermath, securing perimeter defenses, interrogating captured rebels, and reinforcing the palace's weak points. The Queen approached him in the central chamber. Her presence was calm, but her eyes reflected respect and curiosity. "You have done more than defend me," she said. "You have shown my people that loyalty, courage, and ingenuity matter more than rank or strength alone. You have changed the way we think." Arik bowed slightly, a gesture of respect. "I only did what humans do best. We face challenges, adapt, and protect those who cannot protect themselves. That is what I teach by action, not by words." The Queen smiled faintly. "And yet, by your actions, you have taught us more than many lessons from our scholars. You are not merely a soldier, you are a leader even here." Arik looked at her steadily. "Leadership is not about power or authority. It is about responsibility, about guiding others and protecting them. Humans survive because we choose to act rightly, even when it is difficult." Her eyes softened. "Then perhaps the lesson is clear. Strength alone is meaningless. The courage to act, the loyalty to protect, and the mind to adapt, these are what endure. You have shown us that." Over the next few days, Arik continued to work with the Queen's forces. He trained soldiers, advised council members, and helped the palace recover from the rebellion. Through this process, he gained the trust of alien soldiers who had once doubted him. They began to respect not only his skill but his integrity, his courage, and his unwavering sense of duty. Even the Queen's closest advisors, once skeptical of humans, came to acknowledge his value. Aric's presence reminded them that intelligence and loyalty were more important than sheer technological power. Humans could inspire and guide through example, not just commands. One evening, the Queen invited Aric to walk with her through the palace gardens. The air was calm, and the glowing plants cast soft light on the paths. "You have done more than I expected," she said. "Even in a world that is not your own, you have influenced us. How do you do it?" Aric smiled faintly. "Humans survive because we rely on each other, think creatively, and never give up. I cannot change who I am, even in your world. And it seems your people are ready to learn from that." She looked at him thoughtfully. "Perhaps humans are more than what I believed. Perhaps your spirit, your courage, your loyalty, can teach even the strongest alien empire." Aric nodded. "We inspire by action, not words. That is why humans endure. That is why I survive, even here." The Queen was silent for a moment, considering his words. "Then I see now. One human, acting with courage and loyalty, can shape more than we ever imagined. You have done that. And for that I owe you my respect." Aric felt a quiet satisfaction. He had not sought recognition, only to act rightly. Yet even in a foreign world, even among a civilization far advanced beyond his own, his human spirit had made a difference. As the moons of Erythia rose high in the sky, Aric realized that the challenge of the palace had changed him too. He had learned to adapt not only in battle but in diplomacy, strategy, and influence. Yet his ultimate goal remained: to protect those he cared for and return home with his honor intact. And for the first time, he understood that even in the heart of an alien empire, humans were not powerless. They could inspire loyalty, change minds, and make an impact that technology alone could never achieve. The rebellion had been defeated, but Aric knew more challenges awaited. Yet he was ready. He was human, undaunted, resourceful, and unwavering, and he would continue to stand for what was right no matter the world or the enemy. The twin moons of Erythia reflected softly on the crystal towers of the alien palace, casting long shadows over the glowing gardens. Captain Aric stood on a balcony overlooking the courtyard, his armor still bearing marks from recent battles, his mind heavy with decisions. The rebellion had been defeated, the Queen's authority restored, and the alien empire stabilized for now. Yet the most difficult choice awaited him. The Queen approached silently. Her flowing form moved with grace, yet her presence was commanding. "You have done well, human," she said. "You have protected, guided, and inspired. Your kind is remarkable. The Empire owes you much." Aric met her gaze, steady and unwavering. "I only did what any human would do. I acted for those who could not defend themselves. That is all." Her eyes glimmered with respect and curiosity. "And yet your actions have changed more than the palace walls. You have influenced minds, hearts, and loyalty itself. Humans possess a strength we often overlook." Aric nodded. "Strength comes from courage, loyalty, and choices. Humans survive because we act rightly, even when it is difficult. That is why I must return to my people. My duty is there." The Queen studied him in silence, then spoke carefully. "You may stay here. You could hold power, guide my people, and be celebrated as a hero beyond imagination. But you choose to leave?" "Yes," Aric said firmly. "Because power without responsibility is meaningless. My place is with those I protect, not in a world where I am an honored guest but a stranger among strangers." The Queen's glowing eyes reflected both understanding and admiration. Few humans would make such a choice. Most would accept comfort, influence, and admiration. You do not. Aric glanced at the distant horizon where the first light of Erythia's sun began to touch the valley. Humans endure because we choose right over easy. We fight for others, not for glory. That is what makes us human." The Queen nodded slowly, almost solemnly. "Then I will grant you your freedom. But know this, the Empire will always respect you and your name will carry honor here forever." The next hours were spent preparing Aric for departure. The Queen assigned her most trusted guards to ensure his safe journey, yet she allowed him freedom to plan his route. The palace staff, soldiers, and scholars all expressed admiration and gratitude. Even those who had doubted him now bowed in respect, recognizing the courage and wisdom that humans could embody. Princess Ilara awaited him at the landing platform. She had been sent from her own kingdom to greet him, a symbol of the bonds between humans and the alien empire. Her eyes shone with pride and relief. "Captain," she said softly, "you return to us not just alive, but having shown what humans are capable of, even among aliens." Arik smiled faintly. "It was not just me. Humans survive because we act together. Courage inspires, loyalty guides, and choices define us. That is what I hope you carry forward." Ilara reached out, placing a hand on his armored shoulder. "And we will. Your actions will be remembered, not only for saving lives, but for showing the strength of the human spirit." As the transport ship lifted from the platform, Arik gazed back at the alien palace. The towers sparkled in the morning light, and the gardens glowed faintly with the last whispers of night. He felt a strange mix of admiration, respect, and relief. The alien civilization was magnificent, yet he had learned that no matter how advanced a species could be, it was courage, loyalty, and moral integrity that mattered most. During the journey back to human territory, Arik reflected on the events of the past weeks. He had faced overwhelming alien forces, saved a princess from certain death, survived captivity in the alien palace, and influenced a civilization's leaders with nothing but human resolve. Each experience had tested him in ways no human or alien could have predicted, yet he realized the most important lesson was simple. The human spirit could shine in any world, under any circumstance. Technology, power, and status could create awe, but it was courage, integrity, and loyalty that inspired trust, unity, and lasting respect. Upon arrival on his home planet, Arik was greeted as a hero. Crowds cheered, children waved, and soldiers saluted. Yet he remained humble, remembering the Queen's words and the lessons learned from the alien empire. He had returned not for glory, but because duty and loyalty called him home. Princess Ilara stood beside him, radiant and composed. "Captain," she said, "you have done more than defend me. You have defended the values we hold dear: courage, loyalty, and honor. The people will remember you not just as a soldier, but as a symbol of humanity's potential." Arik shook his head. "I am no symbol. I am human. That is enough. If my actions inspire others to act bravely and rightly, then I have done my duty." Leaders from the human world gathered to honor him, yet Arik accepted the accolades quietly. He understood that humans were strongest when they acted together, not when one person sought recognition. Still, he could not deny a sense of pride in knowing that his courage had made a difference across planets and civilizations. Even as he settled back into his familiar life, Arik's mind often returned to the alien palace. He remembered the Queen's words, the lessons he had shared, and the bonds he had formed. Though he had chosen to return home, the connection between humans and the alien empire had been strengthened by trust, respect, and mutual understanding. One evening, as he walked through the city streets, he noticed children playing, laughing, and imagining adventures beyond the stars. He smiled quietly, realizing that this was the future worth protecting. The next generation who would grow up knowing that courage, loyalty, and integrity were universal values, not bound by planets or species. In the quiet of his home, Arik received a message from the Queen. It was simple, yet profound. "Your spirit remains our guide. Humans are not just survivors, they are exemplars. Thank you for reminding us of this." He read the message and felt a sense of calm satisfaction. His journey had begun with duty, had been tested by challenge, and now returned full circle with understanding and respect. Humans had survived, inspired, and changed the course of an entire alien empire, not through power alone, but through courage, loyalty, and moral integrity. Weeks later, Arik stood once more at the training grounds overseeing a new group of recruits. Soldiers practiced drills, strategized, and learned to adapt to challenges. Arik taught them not only skill but also values: courage under pressure, loyalty to one another, and the importance of making the right choice, even when it was difficult. He paused, watching a young soldier execute a difficult maneuver with precision and confidence. A faint smile crossed his face. Humanity would endure, humanity would inspire, and humanity would always act rightly, no matter how distant the stars or how strange the worlds. In the distance, a small ship appeared, a familiar silhouette against the horizon. Arik recognized the signature instantly, the Queen's vessel, sleek and glowing. Though he had returned home, The bond between the two worlds had been forged. Trust and respect were stronger than distance. The Queen's message had been clear. Humans mattered not because of technology or power, but because of courage, loyalty, and integrity. And Arik had proven that one human, acting with bravery and principle, could leave an impact far beyond their own world. As the sun rose over the city, casting golden light over the training grounds, Arik stood tall, ready to guide, protect, and inspire. His heart was with his people, his mind sharp from experience, and his spirit unbroken. Humanity had faced challenges before, and it would face many more, but with courage, loyalty, and moral integrity, it would endure and inspire for generations to come. And in the heart of the stars, the alien queen would remember the human who refused to yield, who acted rightly, and who reminded her that courage and integrity were the greatest powers of all. Captain Arik had returned home, not for glory but for duty, and in doing so, he had become a symbol of the enduring strength of humanity.